Hello and welcome to Seattle City Makers. I'm your host, Jon Scholes. Welcome to our latest episode. I am joined by the city's chief librarian, Tom Fay, who has been in that role since March of 2022 and has a nearly 40-year career in libraries. Before coming to Seattle, he began his career and grew up in Nevada, and we're grateful to have him here in Seattle and grateful that he spent some time to join us on Seattle City Makers. We talk about his career journey and the Seattle Library Levy that will be in front of voters later this year. Hope you enjoy my conversation with the city's chief librarian, Tom Fay. Well, thanks, Tom, for coming by, and it feels like a good time to talk to you with a lot going on in the library system and the levy and on the ballot here soon, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but you've got a connection to our producer that I just learned about. James Cito, his uncle, was a professor of yours back at UNLV?
He was. I have a...
How did you all discover this?
Well, actually, James mentioned it. He said, I saw you went to UNLV and you have a fine arts degree.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And then I finally put the name together and I said, oh, yeah. I said, yeah, I most certainly knew your uncle.
Uncle Lee.
Yeah.
Small world.
And it was great. You know, he actually gave me the opportunity to take a higher level sculpture class.
Yeah.
He was doing steel sculpture. And I had actually done some apprentice welding for a shop that was building mining equipment. And he's like, well, you got to show me you can weld. You got to be able to use gas. You got to be able to arc weld. I'm like, I can do all those. So he took time out of his day and spent extra time so I could show him I could do it. And he let me into the classes, and I really appreciated it. Got me,
Very cool.
Got me through those credits I needed.
Very cool. And you've had a 40-year career in libraries, more or less, with a degree in library science. Did you grow up wanting to be a chief librarian? How did you know so early that this is the industry, if you will, that you wanted to be in?
Well, I would say probably most people don't necessarily know that they're going to be in libraries. In my case, I grew up out in the country outside of Las Vegas in a farming and ranching community. Uh-huh. And so I was doing odd jobs and everything else. And I loved the library. I always read. My dad was a big reader. And the librarian said, hey, do you want a summer job here? I'm like, yeah, get out of 120 degree heat and be in air conditioning. I'm like, heck yeah, what's the job? And I was a shelver, page, putting books away, helped out with story times on the weekends, helping with the craft projects. So that's how I got my start.
You got an early taste of it.
I did. It was when I was 16 years old.
And you were hooked.
I was hooked.
And when you were applying to colleges, did you have the sense of, I want to make this a career?
I think it was probably a while later. So I actually spent 17 years in libraries before I got the degree. I did, most of my work was in IT, spent 15 years in library IT. Then I actually did capital project management on construction projects in Las Vegas. We were building a lot of branches. So got a lot of that kind of back end. And then I started working into the administration side, but the non-public service, the part that didn't require the degree, the library degree. So I was, at one point I was an assistant director over everything that was not the library stuff, HR, IT, all of those back of house functions. And then got the degree and moved into the library side of it.
And how'd you make your way to Seattle?
Well, I was at the point of having my 30 years in Nevada, which is kind of the peak of where you need to retire. And at that point, I could also take my retirement.
Yeah.
So I was looking at that, and I had a 13-year-old daughter, and I'm like, well, high school is tough no matter where you go. So, you got to start over again. And she was excited about the move. We had some friends up here.
Yeah.
And, it was tough, to make the move because it's totally culturally different. Once you get here, you get in the outdoors, and we're very much outdoors people.
Yeah.
It's hard to not love it. And she can't even imagine, growing up anywhere else for those years.
And you've had the CEO role here, or chief librarian role here for
5 years.
5 years now. But you were there prior.
I was.
In different roles. What did you start at when you came up to the library system?
So I started as the director of library programs and services. So I oversaw all of the branches, the central library, everything that you can think of that would fill a library. All of our selection, collection people, even our trucking, what we call our distribution system, all of those services as well. And then because I had the IT background, they also loaded me up with the IT as well at that time. So I had quite a few folks. I had about 550 of the 700 and some odd folks that work for us that really worked with me during that time.
And when did you decide you wanted to go after the role? And you were in the interim position, right?
I wasn't. Yeah, I was interim.
Were you committed to wanting to take the permanent job and put your hat in, or?
No, I wasn't at first because I had, it's one of those things that you have to think about. Do I have the energy? Because it's a big organization, and you're also looking at the things that are in front of you with, city budgets. You're looking at you're going to have to be there to do another levy. Do you have the energy to make that run for 5 years basically to get that levy? Mm-hmm. And then all of the other things that come into play, running an organization that size, and you want to make sure your spouse is on board with that. She had already retired.
Yeah, they need to have the energy too, right?
They have to have the energy to put up with me, which is a big piece of it. Yeah. And so yes, we did decide to do it.
And how do you stack Seattle's system relative to others in the country? How should we think about it as far as how we compare?
I really think of Seattle, and I think many do, as one of the premier systems in the country. Mm-hmm. So when you, at least in our profession, as you hear about library systems, you hear Seattle, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Boston. Those are kind of all in the same breath. And that, for a city of our size, I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
We're known for some really quality programming, some innovative programming and services. We are known for voracious readers. I mean, we rank somewhere between 8th and 10th in the world in e-book or e-material checkouts for a city that's under 800,000.
Wow, the system does. Yeah.
Yes, and so when you think about that, the number one is usually Toronto or Singapore or New York Public.
Yeah, they're a little bigger than us.
Imagine how big those cities are in comparison, right? And so to be in that realm really shows how many readers we have here.
Yeah. And the governance and the structure of the system is somewhat unique. You've got ties back to city government, but you're not like every other department because you've also got a board. How should people think about, understand kind of how our system relates to our city government and how it's structured?
Yeah, it is unique because we are a city department, but we are a non-executive department, meaning that I don't report to the mayor or council. I'm hired by the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees are appointed by the mayor to 5-year terms, approved by the council. It's a special dance, as I say, every time I have to work with the budget or work with the mayor's office. As I always say, for any incoming mayor, we have something that will resonate with your plan, no matter who the mayor is. We're here to actually make the city look good, provide these services. Mm-hmm. It's not some combative situation. Well, sometimes it can get difficult, like any budget issue. But other than that, we're really here to make sure that any administration looks good and is proud of their library system.
How have libraries and library systems changed from when you first got into this work and early in your career?
Well, I think you see, a lot more need for the technology components coming in, both for staff use, but also for patrons. Looking at things now where, many years ago, we would never think about having a library of things. As we start looking about what we might start doing here, you see libraries offering tools, gardening tools, or a number of other types of things. Additional technologies, we have Wi-Fi hotspots that we loan out, and those things are on reserve constantly. People have that need and desire to be able to have access online because they can't afford it. So all of those things are shifts. And then as you think about
a broader set of things we're sharing through that system.
Exactly. And then, of course, e-material, e-audio books, e-books. those have changed the game as well for convenience, portability, but at a high cost. An ebook is 2 to 3 times more expensive than a physical book, and an e-audio is anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 times more expensive than a physical book. Mm-hmm. And that's because libraries and publishers have always seen libraries as a little bit of a competition. So we actually pay a higher price than you would as a consumer. But we also know that also gets spread out. And really, when you look at it,
lots of users.
The cost of it is like $1 per capita.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. Do you see libraries becoming places where even more things are shared?
I do, and I also see it as a place where we'll probably have more do-it-yourself type of spaces, where we could have, if somebody wants to learn how to sew, somebody wants to learn how to do laser printing. I do see us moving down that path over the next few years. It'll take some changes to our spaces to do that, but really, people want to be able to do that, and most people can't. There's not an entry point for that. For most people, laser printers, they're not that expensive. I'm like, oh yeah, they are. if you don't have any resource, they're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So is it something that we can do? Can we move down to having, community support? People come in, it's a great opportunity to partner in the community to have people train on that. Not just the library do it, but really work with community partners like we do for so many things. That's how we leverage the library, not by us doing it all, but really saying who in the community does this well and wants to contribute.
And you've got a platform that's free and accessible that folks can take advantage of and share in whatever's being offered.
Exactly.
And now a word from one of our great sponsors. BXP has been part of the Seattle community since acquiring Safeco Plaza in 2021. Alongside Madison Center, their Seattle portfolio, led by Kelly Lofshin, totals 1.5 million square feet of premier workplace. BXP invests and manages their buildings to the highest standards, ensuring they are among the best in the city, providing unmatched quality and service to their clients. BXP was honored to be a visionary sponsor for the Downtown Seattle Association's State of Downtown 2026, reflecting their ongoing commitment to revitalizing downtown Seattle and fostering a sustainable future. And now back to our episode. Are you embracing AI? Is AI in your world, in libraries and library systems? And if so, in what way? Or do you see it coming in some ways?
Definitely see it coming. It's been talked about a lot over the last couple of years. I think you've seen it, that conversation happening in the city as well. And there's pushback, as many have seen, worried about the resource, the sustainability of all these big data centers, et cetera. So that's always in folks' mind. I think for us, as I look at it, it's already tools behind the scenes being used every day.
Yeah, we sometimes just don't recognize it.
We don't know it.
Yeah.
And I think, people really need to think more about the ethical use of it. Mm-hmm. When is it appropriate to use it? What are you doing with that data? Those are the things that we really want to pay attention to in library land. But more importantly, from the library standpoint, is to be able to teach people how to use this tool. What are the prompts that you could use for the tool that will actually get you the best results?
Yeah.
How do you test it? How do you try to validate it? What are those secondary steps that you take? That's what librarians do already. When you come to a reference desk or you ask a question, they're going through that same process. You can do that with AI, and it can become a very powerful tool for you.
Was there similar kind of consternation, resistance, concern over when computers came into libraries?
Yeah, the whole World Wide Web and all the computer technology, that was another big piece of it. And as I tell my colleagues and our staff, we don't want to be on the back end of AI like we were on the back end of the World Wide Web and that access. I said, we want to be leading that in how to ethically use it, how to make sure that you're getting the results that you want, how to discern disinformation. We used to talk about misinformation. Now the concern is the disinformation, and the propagation with AI is extreme.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe the state of the Seattle system today?
I would say a healthy system, one that is ready for a little bit of growth. The population has increased a lot. And as you know, city budgets have not, with all the constraints with the tax structure in the state. I think as we look at it, I compare it to other cities. I know sometimes people will say, oh, you don't have enough. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough of this. And I said, well, you can compare us to other big cities and we're in pretty good shape. So I think as far as systems,
branches and what's available and the staff support.
Exactly. There's not a lot of room to do more in this city as far as branches.
Yeah.
Oh, you could, tear something down and build something bigger within the footprint you have. But, trying to find any piece of land here is nearly impossible.
Yeah. And you've got a levy coming up on the ballot in November.
Yes.
And
August.
August, that's right. The council's already placed it on the ballot. What will it do? What's the substance of it?
So it's basically a replacement levy to the previous levy. And what it's going to do is all those things that we had done before. So those core components, basic operations, keeping the buildings open, the hours of operation that we have, some of the capital that was already in there, but it's going to add additional capital. So as our building infrastructure ages, that's been the real concern because there's been a lot of deferrals because of some of these other general fund budget reductions over the years. So a big piece of it will be that, and you have to think about it in the sense that we have buildings now that are 20 years old that were from the Libraries for All campaign where they built a bunch of branches.
Right. To
buildings that are 120 years old that are Carnegie buildings, many of which still need seismic retrofits to make sure they don't fall down in an earthquake. All of that work has to be done as well. The other big piece of it is going to be some additional staffing for programming. And folks often ask, well, why is that so important? Well, think about how people consume any kind of material now. It's both listening, visual, and yes, reading. But sometimes reluctant readers or folks who aren't reading, the hook is the programming. That drives the curiosity. And especially for children, as we look at doing early literacy work, we want to have more of that. You can look at the numbers, and it doesn't matter where you're at in this country. The reading scores are pretty bad. And so library has a big role in that. And that programming is where we do that work to get families actually being their first teacher for their child. So that's a really important piece. And then the next big piece is the books. So more money in here for e-material because that's where we've been kind of stuck. Also more for physical. And then we have our Peak Picks, which is what everyone enjoys. They can walk in and something that's the bestseller that has been on hold for whatever, you might find it in your library. You can just check it out right then and there. So more for that. And also we hope to be able to design one for the ebooks and e-audio books as well. Something that'll allow people to kind of skip the line, so to speak, for the holds that are usually pretty heavy for that best-selling material. And that's generally what you're getting in there. And of course, there'll be some additional things like we're looking at kiosks throughout the city.
Oh, really?
That we could actually place. They're like vending machines.
Yeah.
Some of them are a little more robotic and some of them are more like a vending machine. But trying to figure out where we can put those in places where access is maybe too far from a library. Maybe it just happens to be a really good transit corridor that we know people are
kiosks and transit stations.
Yes, things like that.
Yeah, kind of evolving the little free libraries that we see around town that have kind of come about organically.
Exactly.
How does that technology work? And what's the selection and kind of scope of the number of books that you might have in a kiosk like that? Are there places that are doing that already?
There are, yes. Yeah. And so some of the larger ones you could have up to 500 or 600 items in, maybe even 700. There's others that have about 250 smaller. You could fit them inside maybe a senior center or something like that. But they can all be curated, which is nice. So if you want to be, near a preschool, maybe you can curate that to have all children's material in it. And if you want to be in an older adult area, then it can be, just the general collection. So that's the beauty of it. And the other piece is we can have like a little hotspot in there. You could also check out an ebook from there if you want, because you could have access to the site. Yeah. Just hook up yourself to the Wi-Fi and off you go.
That's cool. I can envision people grabbing a book at the Northgate Light Rail Station on their commute in and reading it back and forth for the week, and you can return it on Friday. And
and it really
grab another one on Monday.
It really helps with the fact that we're not going to be able to build branches in other places, likely.
Yeah. So this levy is not committing to a bunch of new buildings and branches as previous levies have. We've got to take care of what we got and
exactly.
Yeah, and enhance access and availability of what there is in the branches we do have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, one of the big pieces in here for the capital is about $10 million to renovate at least one floor at the Central Library. Mm-hmm. So during the life of this levy, the Central Library is going to be nearly 30 years old at the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's time. It needs some remodeling in some areas and some other consideration of services.
Do you have designs and plans or ideas on that already of what that floor might be?
Not yet. We're actually going through a comprehensive facilities study as we roll through the end of this year into next. And that will start then informing what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it's such a gem in our city and in our downtown.
Absolutely.
Do you expect it to be a third place through World Cup that will be here in just 3 weeks? Will it be a place where, in between matches, you see people come in, hanging out, killing time?
Absolutely. We're on the Unity Loop. So we'll be a significant part of that. We're also, as you might expect, we're one of the few places with restrooms along the way. Yeah. So that'll always be a reason for people to stop in. But we also have our friend shop there. People are also looking for information about the city. So we usually have ambassadors, volunteers at desks to help guide people, reference librarians as well that can assist with that. And so we expect quite a few people during the course of the Cup.
And it's a gorgeous building,
yes.
Right?
Well, and it's usually on, for those who are coming from out of the country, we are on a lot of tourist radar. So we see people out front taking pictures all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think those third places during the World Cup matches here and those 5 or 6 weeks of soccer are going to be important.
And we're going to have watch parties at several of our libraries.
That's great. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. You going to any matches?
I am not, because I'm probably going to be pretty much on call for part of the city's whole infrastructure and making sure that things are going well. So I'll be in my office likely.
Be where you're needed.
I'll probably be down at a watch party. Maybe that'll be my opportunity.
Streaming on your phone while you're on duty. About a year ago, you had a piece an op-ed in the Seattle Times sort of sounding the alarm on federal cuts to the limited federal support and dollars that go to library systems around the country. What's the kind of current state on the issues that you raised back in April of 25?
Well, while those were resolved by the federal government having to release the funds and make sure those grants were honored, that was a good thing. They are back up to the shenanigans again of trying to either defund or take out the IMLS. And it is a concern. I know, as we stated there, we don't receive that much in federal funding from the IMLS. Usually what we get from that particular source is really through research with UW, so in partnership doing grants with them. So yes, we've done some large-scale grants with them over the years. But really, the bulk of that money goes to rural library systems. It goes to the state library where they can do development and training for those rural libraries who have not the resource of Seattle, which is critical. Also funds tribal libraries. If you haven't had a chance to go to a tribal library or see, they have all the challenges we have and then some. So it really is an important source of funding that helps all those smaller library systems in these states. And we're very fortunate that yes, we can do the research type of things and be in partnership with the university and not have to rely on that for, even our basic training for our staff, which many libraries do. Yeah.
It seems like it would be malpractice as a podcast host to not ask you, the chief librarian, if you have any book recommendations.
Well, I would tell you what my favorite book is, because someone had just asked me yesterday, and my favorite book is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I was hooked on that when I was, I I probably was a teenager. I think it must have been maybe 13 or so when I first read it, and it's still one of my favorites. I read it again about 5 years ago, and I have the book that he wanted published exactly how he wrote it. Oh, and wow. His son, he had passed, but his son got it published, and it's a beautiful piece of literature. Yeah. I mean, it has poetry, it has song, the written word, and it's just one of my favorites to this day.
Were you a big reader as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I read a lot of history. That my dad read a lot of it, so I got hooked on a variety of history topics. And then my light reading, I guess I would say, would be sci-fi. I do a lot of sci-fi, and if it's good fantasy, I'll read that as well. But those are my genre, I guess, or my subject areas.
Couple concluding questions on our podcast, Tom. Your first job that you took a paycheck for, was it the job you referenced earlier at 16 in the library, or did you have something before that?
No, I did, as I said, I did that welding apprenticeship, spot welding, so I got a paycheck for that, and I worked construction even before I got the job.
In the heat of the Vegas desert?
Yes, I can assure you that
summer construction jobs.
You started at about 4 or 5 in the morning, and you usually wrapped up at 2 because that was about all you could take.
That's some hard work.
Yeah. Well, I was very, very thin. There was nothing left on me at the end of the day. Yes, and tan.
And then our final question: what's your perfect Saturday in Seattle?
So my wife and I have done this for years. As we have guests come in, we go to the Electric Boat Company.
Oh, yeah.
In South Lake Union, rent a boat, take folks out. Often we'll have food on the boat. We'll just do the whole tour around the lake. If we don't do food, then we go to Cafe Turco over there in Fremont, which is just a fun place, great Mediterranean-style food.
You pull up and dock?
I've done that at the Salmon House.
Oh, yeah, at Ivers?
Yeah, I've done it. I've done that there, yeah. But we love it. It's great. You can do it. Yeah, actually, you can even do it in the winter. Well, covers come down. They have a heater, so you can still have a great day out on the lake.
That sounds terrific, and you've got a great backdrop of downtown and gasworks. And I always forget they're there, that you can rent those things and kind of tool around that beautiful lake.
And it's very peaceful, except probably on Memorial Day. It might be a little crazy out there, so it probably wouldn't be my first weekend to do it.
Saturdays in July and August, and you got seaplanes and kayaks and Argosy boats and everybody else, but that's pretty fun too.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for making time to come over and join us on the podcast, and for your stewardship of this incredible system that we are fortunate to have here. And hope folks will take a careful look at the levy on the August ballot and get smart about what's in it and its importance to sustaining and evolving our current system. So thanks again for making time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Well, thanks to Tom for joining us on Seattle City Makers. Hope you enjoyed our conversation. As we do each and every episode, I want to highlight something to check out in downtown Seattle and want to lift up the reopening of Westlake Park after a year or so of multi-million-dollar improvements and a refresh and revamp. It reopened earlier in June. Late May, actually, to be exact. And it looks terrific. Congratulations to the City of Seattle, the Seattle Parks Foundation, Cell and Construction, the Pine Street Group, and Burger Partnership for their work. Our team is back in this beautiful refresh space with programming and activities, all new furnishings and plants. And we've got a new concession operator, Benito Cafe, off of Capitol Hill. They've taken residency in the green shipping container that we have in the park and are open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with beer and wine and coffee and grab-and-go food. So I hope you get into Westlake often this summer for soccer watch parties and lots more. Well, thanks, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Seattle City Makers, presented by the Downtown Seattle Association, with support from James Cito and production by Thread Theory.